Welcome back to The Big Picture. Today we are honoring the high school seniors about to go off to college. So we're going to talk about Anna in just a little bit, but we're also talking about Global Scholars Diploma. Have you heard of this before, Colin?
I actually have not.
Okay, it's an amazing program in schools all throughout Central Ohio, part of the Columbus Council on World Affairs, which I am a proud board member of. And I'm so glad to also welcome Alyson Helwagen with us today because she's the board chair. Let's talk about first Global Scholars. You and I, every time at graduation, we walk away just feeling so inspired.
So inspired to watch these hundreds of kids, some of them juniors, some of them seniors. They've done these Take Action projects, which is the third year of this program, right? So they have to pick an issue that affects their community, that's some sort of local issue that also has global impact. And then they do a whole project on it for the whole year, a lot of research, a lot of interviewing sources. It's a little bit like journalism, you know, where you're kind of going around and trying to get to the root cause and all the solutions. And then they do a big presentation. So you get to walk through and see hundreds of these projects, and you walk away going, wow, you know, these kids have really done so much work, and it's a lot of inspiration, I think.
It is, and as we look at some of this video from years past, I mean, everything from climate change to water to monarch butterflies and making sure they have a migration places. Like, you walk out of this and you just feel the brain power, I almost feel like, and then you think, gosh, if adults could think like these kids, how much better would our world be?
Yeah, if we could get adults that involved in looking around, just looking around you locally and going, what's wrong and how can I fix it? That would be amazing.
And that's really the mission. Talk about Columbus Council on World Affairs. You know, it's really part of that root mission of what we're doing at CCWA.
Right. It's really to get people to kind of look beyond and see the world as a whole, right? Our organization's really committed to global education and empowering people to be more globally minded. So we really do want to get people to zoom out a little bit and see, you know, how your life and your community really does have an impact globally if you want to take that initiative.
Don't you wish you had something like this, Colin, in high school?
I know. I don't think we did. So it's an awesome opportunity. And Anna, you yourself, I love this project that you came up with, and it's a program to help with pronunciation
of names, right?
And that's fantastic, because how many, whether that be you or your classmates, have had your name mispronounced by a teacher, a colleague, etc. So where did this idea come from? How did we get here?
So obviously, you know, I've had firsthand experience with name mispronunciation, and, you know, I've always had to kind of deal with, oh, you know, Anna's an easy first name, but my last name is a little iffy. So, you know, when things like, you know, an 8th grade graduation ceremony would happen, you know, I'd always be like so nervous about like, what are they going to say this time? And, you know, I'd end up having to go up and like actually correct people before, you know, walking the stage again and stuff. But it came from a lot of other different places as well, you know, seeing peers, especially peers who, like, you know, their names are rooted very much so in like their culture and identity, having to struggle with this. Like, it's just not fun to see, but there's also like a science behind it too, because, you know, we as humans are very social creatures. So, you know, we need that communication. So when we hear our name said back to us, especially from like a teacher or someone we really respect, and we hear our name said back to us in a manner, it shows like that we are perceived and that we exist in our current like social space. So you can imagine the flip side of that being an awkward like little miscommunication on both ends, and just a bit of insecurity building up with, you know, your name. So you can imagine the prolonged exposure being much worse, especially if the issue isn't like tackled early on.
And this happened to you like with a like a sporting event where they were calling your name wrongly on the intercom, and you got yelled at because you didn't recognize someone saying your wrong name.
Yes, that was another really, like, that experience is what really pushed me to do this project, because it made me realize like how many people every day, like in my school, in any other school district, get punished just because they are unable to, like, you know, recognize a mispronunciation of their name. Like, why do they have to relearn it?
Well, and I want to pull up this stat that you provided to us of one of these studies that you went around. You did this, right? Went around and asked, have you ever had your name mispronounced? 72% of the respondents said yes. So this is not an uncommon issue that unfortunately is plaguing a lot of people. And so you've created this Pronounce with a Purpose. So how does this work?
Okay, so the initial Pronounce with Purpose project was simply meant to be a database prototype using very simple applications like Google Sheets, Google Forms. And from there, I kind of presented the idea to different administrators, staff in my school, and I was eventually able to work with counselors to reach out to various freshman advisories, where these freshmen could then fill out the form, which would then ask for, their name, graduation year, but also the phonetic spelling of their name, as well as a voice recording of their name. And, from there, theoretically, teachers are able to then look up the student's name in the database and easily find a student's name that they may struggle with personally. However, I was actually eventually able to expand on the project like I originally had wanted to do, and I was able to focus on adding a phonetic spelling feature into PowerSchool, which is a very commonly used application for teachers, when they need to check attendance, check grades. PowerSchool is what they use. And so I was able to work with the IT department as well as the technology department for the Westerville City School District. And we ended up coming up with a plan to implement a phonetic spelling feature that's very quick and easy to use for teachers and even, substitute teachers for the upcoming fall semester this year.
Did you just feel all that brain power right next to me? I'm like she took one idea and it's now district wide, and I think that this should go statewide. I mean, this is so critical, not just I think for students, but I think probably the teachers, right? It empowers them to have that stronger connection. What's the feedback you're hearing from them?
So obviously everyone's really, really pumped because, students are being acknowledged currently that previously we're kind of just told it's not a big deal. Just correct them when you have to. So, this resource being given to teachers is able to kind of subside that whole way of thinking and actually treat this like an issue rather than a miscommunication. And then teachers are obviously ecstatic because they don't have to, apologize before saying attendance, and they can have that safety net of knowing how to at least approach a student's name. And while this isn't a fail-safe, and I can't personally be like, okay, you're pronouncing this name right and this name right. It does help anyone who needs the resource. And I do hope that I can eventually expand this to other school districts.
I love it. And I think circling back here, Alyson, students like Anna, I mean, you see that day in, day out with this Global Scholars Diploma program. And it's something that CCWA really cultivates as they go through this program for 2 to 3 years, right?
Right. To really think through, your issue about this communication, and to zoom out, as I was talking about, you think about having someone make the effort to find out how to pronounce your name before you ever have to correct them, and to have that experience of someone saying, I looked up how to pronounce your name and now I can speak to you directly. It's just a sign of respect. And then it lets you feel like you can engage with this person in a way that maybe you wouldn't have before because you had this awkward exchange, or maybe you feel disrespected. And, part of what Global Scholars is teaching is all of these obstacles that we have to talking to each other about global issues, to coming up with those solutions. Sometimes they come down to things that are really, really simple and basic, like making an effort to pronounce someone's name correctly. And I think that's kind of gets to the root of the type of thinking that this program really helps instill in students.
And as we look at video from these graduations of years past, Colin, I have to tell you, if you ever go to a graduation, you walk out of there feeling like, okay, our world is going to be okay. We're not going to, kill the planet Earth with all these toxins or whatever. These kids are coming up with solutions.
Yeah, the next generation has us covered.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How can people, if you're a teacher wanting to join a Global Scholars Diploma, get it into your school?
So there's all the information about it at columbusworldaffairs.org. There's a page just dedicated for educators, so you can go in, click through, learn about what it takes to have it in your district, and reach out to someone at the Columbus Council on World Affairs who can work directly with you in your district to get that started if you're interested.
Well, I'm just so proud of you, Anna, and really all the students that I see come through year in, year out. So it's great. Yeah. Anna, Alyson, thank you guys so much for
Thanks
coming
for having
in.
us.
Thank you for
Good
having
luck
us.
at Kent State.
Thank you.